Welcome back to Fantasy Sports Today here on SportsGrid. We've been able to distract George Kurtz here for an entire show without mentioning the New York Yankees as they get ready for the American League Championship Series, which is good news for us. We've got them focused here on little fantasy football, and I don't know if the Yankees win again and get to the World Series, George is going to be totally distracted here. But the good news is he's a Cowboys fan, so we push him toward that direction. So in this little discussion here, we're going to take care of some hold or drop fantasy football players who you probably drafted to keep and not to cut. Let's start off with the New York Jets, a bucket of money given to Mike Williams this offseason. When he was on the field with the Chargers, George, he was always a startable player. That has not been the case at all this season. I still don't think he's 100% healthy. Lazard is getting more. Everybody's getting more looks than Mike Williams. And I mean, look, maybe this is the kind of situation where we check back in week 12 and he looks healthy and is doing great things. But as of right now, I think this is a drop for me. How about you?
Fireman Ed gets more looks than Mike Williams right now, okay? New York's going to be wild this weekend. Mets have game 1 on Sunday. The Giants play Sunday Night Football. The Mets play game 2 on Monday. Yankees play game 1 Monday, and the Jets play Monday Night Football. This is going to be psychotic over a 24-hour span here in the New York area here. Mike Williams is definitely a drop. I didn't draft him in any league anyway. I've told you before, Craig. I don't like taking players, free agents or guys that get traded. I just think there's an adjustment period. Plus, he was coming off an injury, and Aaron Rodgers didn't show up to mandatory. I mean, there was just so much going on here. He was an easy avoid here. Maybe you have to start this week. You don't have anything else because of the waiver wires. I mean, we're losing Hill, Waddle, Kupp, Nakua, Addison, Jefferson, everybody on Kansas City. So, yeah, maybe you don't have a choice here, but I don't want him. I don't see big things happening here. Whether it's now, week 12, week 14, no thanks.
Yeah, I think, maybe next year, but not this year. All right, Romeo Doubs, he's not happy in Green Bay, to say the least. 12 receptions on the season, 169 yards. Everyone is getting more involved here. I mean, look, is this a situation, George, where you would hold because maybe he ends up on some other team? Or are we just looking at his Green Bay Packers jersey thinking that, like, Antonio Freeman's coming back here, or Robert Brooks, or Javon Walker? Because Doubs doesn't look anywhere near what we thought he was going to be with Green Bay.
Isn't this strange, though, Craig? I mean, something else had to happen here that we don't know about, because you had a little hissy fit as soon as Love comes back. Were you expecting big numbers with Malik Willis? No. I mean, he won games, but I don't think any of the receivers could have been expecting big things. But when Love comes back, you have your little hissy fit. So I think there's something else happened here that we don't know about here. He's never going to be. And all the Packer receivers, Doubs, Wicks, Reed, Watson, they're all the same guy, really, in my mind, right? And you don't know which guy is going to be the guy that week, right? Who's going to be you just don't know. It's great for the football team because good luck for defense trying to figure out which is the guy, right? Love has lots of choice here, lots of reads. So I don't know. I just found this whole thing strange. When did Dobbs become that guy where he can be the diva? When? And not to show up to practice for a couple of days? I just found this all sorts of strange here. That being said, he does have talent here. I lean towards drop, though. Maybe he does have to find himself on another team. And by the way, if he goes to another team, I won't care about him.
Yeah, no, I would agree. It is, to me, strange because the opportunity is right there for him. It's not like there's a ton of competition, but for whatever reason, it hasn't worked out. Same could be said for Demarcus Robinson on the Rams, running out of time, George. Let's be honest, 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, everyone's like, oh, pick this guy up. He's going to be the guy. No Kupp, no Nakua. 12 receptions. Yards aren't horrible. I mean, he does have 189 yards and a touchdown, but I think it's fair to say that if you don't have to start him this week, George, you probably can cut him. If you have to wait, then I think next week is cut time for him.
Well, they're on bye this week, so you're definitely not starting him. The problem is, I think at the very least, Kupp comes back next week. So listen, we all knew somebody on their team would pick it up, right? But it was Tutu Atwell. He was the guy. It wasn't D-Rob. Parkinson to some degree, the tight end here. And by the way, there's a lot of talk that the Rams can move on from Stafford. That they'll maybe try to trade him because it's not working out this year, the contract, blah, blah, blah. And that might kill all their values here. No, I'm done with Robinson. I'm just done. I wasn't big on picking him up anyway. Not that I was big on Atwell either, by the way. I probably was. I was just staying away, period, here from the squad here. But with the bye week, I think Cup's coming back. Maybe Nakua after that. What are we hoping for here? He wasn't doing anything without those guys. Now, what he is, no, I'll pass.
All right, J.K. and Dotson, Philadelphia, definitely not on bye. I know they were on bye last week. They're back this week. 5 catches, 25 yards. Devonta Smith is back. Is this open and shut case? No reason to hold him, right?
Agreed. Well, same situation as Robinson, right? You couldn't do anything without those guys when they weren't in the lineup, right? When A.J. Brown was there, was out, when Devonta Smith was out, they are all going to play. So is Lane Johnson, by the way, who I think, by the way, we can argue Lane Johnson is more important than anybody else on that team. All right, so no, I'm done with. And I did give Dotson a shot in a league or two here. Didn't work out. Moving on.
All right, and finally we got Dalton Schultz, tight end of the Houston Texans. I mean, any tight end that's playing, you sort of have to hang on to here. It's been a disaster. No touchdowns, 116 yards. This is like 2 good games for any good tight end, but I guess there are none. I'm probably a hold one more week on Schultz, but. Starting him is a tough proposition. It sounds like you like him this week, though.
Holding. I am holding Schultz. All right. I am going to hold Schultz. I think I like the targets he got last week. Boy, you can see behind the scenes, boys and girls. He just made just not a nice gesture by Craig there. I'm offended personally. Schultz, I think, once again, I think he's a hold. Now, you said it. You probably weren't starting him the last couple of weeks. I mean, you may have somebody else, another tight end in there, so maybe you're going to wait a little bit. But I think the loss of Collins right now opens things up for Schultz. I think it's good for Diggs, good for Dell. I think Schultz is the third guy there where it's good from. Someone else got to catch those balls here. And Schultz was now I think it was after the injury, he was more a part of the game plan last week. I'm also the first person to tell you, though, Stroud and Schultz, they didn't have it. That chemistry was off there, so they got to work on that here. But bottom line is, I am keeping Schultz. All right, I don't want to get rid of him yet. I'm hoping better things are to come. Listen, he's not going to be a top 5 tight end. I'm not saying that, but I think he can beat Craig in that 8 to 12 range from here on out.
All right, let's quickly go to one quarterback, and then we'll take care of the rest after the break. I'm going to apply this only, George, to super flex leagues, because in a 12-team league, Jacoby Brissett is gone. 14-team league, Jacoby Brissett is gone. How about a super flex league where any quarterback on the waiver wire is like a running back, where you want to start 2 running backs if you can? In a 2-quarterback league, is it bye-bye time for Brissett?
In that deep league I play in, the 16-team league, 40-man rosters, he was my starting quarterback because I had Tua. All right, so, Craig, I have no quarterback this week. None. All right, wow. There's nobody there's nobody there. You can't rattle it. Hanen's gone. I said it's 40-man. It's 50-man rosters. I'm sorry. It's 16 teams. That's 800 players. They're all gone. So
Mason Rudolph's not available.
No, he's been long gone. No one releases quarterbacks because you never know. And there are teams that hoard quarterbacks that have 5, 6, 7 of these guys. So it is what it is. So I have no quarterback there. I want nothing to do with Brissett. I want nothing to do with May. All right, as far as a Superflex league is concerned, it's not fully their fault. Hey, the offensive line is putrid. All right. Part of the reason why Brissett played because they wanted him to get killed and not May, right? They don't want May to get beat up and turn into a David Carr situation, that sort of thing there. But there's no wide receivers there. Sorry, Polk. I know Henry's a decent tight end. Stevenson, we don't know if he's going to play. It's a mess. New England offensively is a mess. No, I want nothing to do with Brissett, May, Grogan, anybody else that's coming back there. Drew Bledsoe, Tom Brady, I might think about. That's about it.
How about Flutie? Little Flutie flake.
Flutie. Oh, that's good. I was trying to think of another old guy. Couldn't think of him.
Flutie kicked a field goal. Remember that?
Drop kick, right? Did the little drop kick thing?
He did. Kicked the field goal. Was it extra point or was it a field goal? Maybe
it was an extra point. He did drop kick.
It was extra point. Yeah. All right, we'll be right back.
right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I am ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
If you're sliding DiVincenzo to the one, obviously Terrence Shannon Jr., that is actually dynamic offensively and defensively. So we'll see how it works. I think it's a little bit of a work in progress. Do both teams win? Yes. I don't think at the end of the day Minnesota could have afforded to keep Cat, Rudy, and Ant with that amount of money.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
I do think they come back, and I think they win this game, but they've got to do it decisively. I think they've got to get that confidence back because they went out there, and like I said earlier, Kentucky almost beat Georgia. Kentucky almost did beat Ole Miss, and I think what you're going to see in this conference, if you don't play well and you're a top 10 team in the SEC, you're going to get knocked out by one of those top 25 teams in the SEC if you're not ready to play.
Powered by SportsGrid.
Welcome back to Fantasy Sports Today. There's certainly a chance that very soon we know who's starting at quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. As of doing the show right now, and as I mentioned earlier in the show, some of our portions of the show are pre-recorded. Justin Fields is, to me, the reason why the Steelers are where they are. But George, for whatever reason, there's some infatuation with Russell Wilson. I cannot figure out why. This is the second team to do this, to continue to start him when his career is clearly over. He is not going to play well, George, for the Steelers. I don't understand this at all. I'm not cutting Fields in any league. I'm still hanging on to him. And, Fields has rushed for, I think, 200 or more yards already this season, too. Like, he's been a really good fantasy quarterback. This is an absolute hold for me with Justin Fields. I think that Wilson's going to get a shot. He's going to fail, and they're going to go back to Fields quick.
I agree with everything you said there. I also don't understand the fascination with Wilson. I also think his career is done. Fields gives you a better chance to win, especially with your weapons or your lack of weapons is what I should say. I understand he didn't have the greatest game against the Cowboys on Sunday night, but didn't you have a lead there? Yeah, you had a lead late. Your defense let you down more than Fields did. You hold that lead, hey, you win the game here. But you didn't. It'd be different if you had a great offense. That maybe Wilson could run a little better if it was a great passing offense. You don't. You need Fields, and you need his flexibility, the fact that he can run the ball all over the place. That can be an extra running back for you. Matter of fact, if I'm Tomlin, or Arthur Smith, by the way, Craig, I think they need to let Fields go. And what I mean is, do what you got to do, buddy. I think they held Fields back Sunday night against Dallas until they were trailing in the fourth quarter. Then we saw quarterback draws. Then we saw quarterback run plays. And it was like, why'd you wait so long to do that? And I think they were trying to keep him in check for a while here. We don't want the turn. I understand that. You don't want the turnover. You don't want him fumbling. You don't want him taking hits and all that. But he's probably not going to be your quarterback next year, right? Your quarterback of the future is not on your roster. So what are you worried about here? Let him do what you have to do, what he has to do to win games now. That's how I would approach it with Fields. But I said I agree with everything you said here. If Fields has one more bad game, or one more so-so game this week, we'll see Wilson next week.
It sounds like Wilson may play this week. Who knows? All right. Next one is actually an easy drop for me. Maybe probably some people see this differently, but I mean, why would anybody hold and start Antonio Gibson? Just because of the fact that he has a heartbeat? Maybe that's the reason. But every time this guy's been given an opportunity to play and start, he hasn't made the most of it. He hasn't been good. He's fumbled. He plays on the worst team in the NFL. I understand the notion to have the worst team's best running back, which may be what Gibson is if Stevenson is out, but I would have also no problem cutting him and starting like Eckler as an example on Washington as like the second guy, or starting Irving or Tracy. I am not in on Antonio Gibson at all. I know he had a couple of good games and a couple of good moments, but what do I have to do? Go back, look 3 years at Washington. What did he do? Nothing.
I don't disagree. All right, bro. Listen, we know there are injuries, right? He may have no choice. By the way, as much as I don't disagree, I mentioned that one league I'm playing. I imagine there's others out there with me here. You may have Cook and you may have White. If Gibson's out there in that league, I'm not going to have a choice, Craig. I'm not going to have a choice. I'm going to have to start him. I'm not. And I think that's what it comes down to. Stevenson's out, so or likely to be. I think he is officially out now. So you don't have a choice here. You just don't have a choice. You're going to have to go with Gibson. All right? You're just going to have to go. I hate it because, once again, if he doesn't get in the end zone and how many touchdowns they scored, you're not going to get double-digit points. So I would be thrilled. Like I said, I would do a little party if I started Gibson and he got me 12 points. I'll take that and run.
Yeah, I don't think he's getting 12 points. That's just me.
No.
All right, so let's go to Cleveland's situation. This is definitely a hold at the very least, if not a start for Jerome Ford. Maybe some folks thought the numbers would be a little bit better than what they are. We know Nick Chubb is coming. Okay, Nick Chubb is going to come back, but I don't think he's going to fully eat into Ford's full workload. The other part of this is that what is Cleveland's team going to look like in 3 weeks, George? I feel like one more loss and they're going to take everyone on this team and punt them and maybe even start over, unfortunately. I think that's maybe the direction that they have to go. Is Ford part of the future, part of the present? I don't know. I'm going to hold and wait and see.
Listen, Ford's a jag. He's just another guy. He's nothing special. Chubb, I agree that he's not gonna play a full complement of snaps, right? Especially in a season that's getting away from him anyway. Why would you want to do that to the guy? You want to hold on to him, fine. I think there's a situation where you look to trade him. If you have Ford and not Chubb, maybe you look to trade him to the Chubb guy, get something else that you can use on a more of a full-time basis here. I can certainly see that. Well, I can see the reverse, by the way, with Chubb guy trades it to Ford. Either one works here. I think I'd be good with it, but not a great situation. Not a good team. They can't pass. Teams know it. They're playing on defense here, so it is what it is. There's just no upside for me here. I think I would have liked to have, if I had Ford in any league, I would have liked to have moved on a week ago, and look to trade him then before Chubb got closer to returning.
Finally, let's go to Carson Steele of the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, Kareem Hunt has taken this role and run with it. Steele is not much of a factor anymore. Gosh, it's hard to cut a Chiefs running back, but I think if I had a better option, I would do it.
I'm moving on from Steele. I think Steele's done. I think he might be third there now. I think your best case scenario is that he's the goal line guy. I think that's your absolute best case scenario, and I'm not sure he's that. All right, I think Hunt's the guy you want first, Perrine's the guy you want second, then it's Steele. He's just listen, he's a football player, but nothing special fantasy-wise. I don't think he can help us anymore unless there's another injury. Hey, Craig, I mean, it's Kansas City. It could certainly happen here, but we also have to remember that CEH, Edwards-Helaire, he should be back next week. So there's more confusion that's going on here. And I would put CEH ahead of Steele as well. So you're talking now you're fourth on the depth chart. No, not liking this. Good luck to you, Steele, but you won't be on my fantasy team.
Yeah, Pacheco could come back, maybe playoffs. I mean, fantasy playoffs, you never know. To get more news, notes, and information on everything we're doing here at SportsGrid, just download the SportsGrid app. How do you do it? Easy. Just take out your phone, scan that QR code. It's available for both iOS and Android. Plenty of picks against the spread, videos from all of our hosts, fun commentary, and everything else you can expect from our network. Also, don't forget, Sunday morning, the last word right before Pro Football Today is Fantasy Sports Today, as Joe Pisapia and Matt Stryker have you for 2 hours each and every Sunday morning with all of the inactives and everything that you could possibly ask for to help you build a winning lineup on Sunday. We'll take a quick time out here on FST and be back with more next.
We're at a point in time coming off of a wild Saturday of college football. People are consistently peeking over at this board.
He actually would not be my number one overall pick, nor would I bet him to be the number one overall pick. I think you got that next wave of NFL players, which is so enticing, which when you see Jaden Daniels come into the NFL and you go, I can get something like that with a guy with just as good an arm.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
It's a new era in CFP to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was
Lincoln!
But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
If you're sliding DiVincenzo to the one, obviously Terrence Jennings Jr., that is actually dynamic offense with that amount of money.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
I think the Washington Commanders are one of the best bets to win it all, or at the very least win the NFC.
Their offensive line, I do want to say one thing. It's very average. The coaching is good. They're getting good coaching from Bobby Johnson, their line coach, here from the Giants. But they've kind of overachieved. Let's call it like it is. Daniels has taken them up. Look, that division's not very good, and they could very well win it over the Eagles and the Cowboys. They're not a Super Bowl team.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
It's trade season in fantasy football, especially next week. I know that I am trying to make trades too to make some of my teams better, but it's not always easy. It takes two to tango. Got to find somebody who's willing to make a trade. Sometimes, George, you got to find someone who's willing to even respond to a trade. Some of these leagues I play in, people don't want to do deals. You know, it's like pulling teeth. But there are some players that are out there that you may have, and you could continually just roll them out, or maybe you think it's a sell high situation. We'll start off with the Indianapolis Colts, Jonathan Taylor, who I think we both really liked going into the season. He has 349 rushing yards. He has 4 touchdowns, and he's just not catching the ball a ton out of the backfield. I believe they do have him on the injury report in some way this week, if I'm not mistaken, so I'm not really sure exactly what his status is going into the week. I know they have Goodson, I think is the backup there, if I'm not mistaken. I think I got that right. What do you make of Taylor? Is Taylor, have we seen the best 5 weeks or whatever of the fantasy football season, or do you think the best is yet to come?
Well, he's out. He's not playing this week, so we can scratch him off our list for this week. Do I want to acquire him? Yeah. I mean, it's top running back, but as always, what's the price? Now, everything you said is true, by the way. The opening sentence or two there. Trading is impossible. And by the way, trading is impossible because it's your fault. It's my fault because we're the ones, oh, that was an awful trade. What were you thinking about? You know, I always love that when people ask me my opinion on a trade after they made it. How about you ask me before you made it? You know, that might be a little bit better for you. But trading, so it's not like when you and I first started playing fantasy where trades were happening. You used to get 3 trades a week. Trades were always happening. Everybody wanted to trade here. Now everybody thinks in my leagues that I know something they don't, which I probably do because this is what I do. But sometimes I just want to trade. I just want to have some fun and trade. But you said I can't even get responses back. You know, so it's hard. It's hard. That being said, I want Taylor. I know he's not playing this week, but if I am 5-1 after this week, he's a guy I want. Right? I don't need him right now. I can wait 2-3 weeks or whatever it might be. I'm looking I think he's still more or less game day to day after Sunday, so he could play next week. But I can afford, even if he doesn't play next week, I can afford it anyway. I'd be looking for him more for the second half of the season. So I'm trading for Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, Sermon is the backup. Goodson is the third guy, and I grabbed Goodson in a couple leagues just to see what would happen this week. All right, Alan Lazard is having as good a fantasy season as any wide receiver is. Honestly, I mean, 20 receptions and 4 touchdowns on the year. He's one of the targets for Aaron Rodgers, so he's getting a lot of play. There are still these rumors for some reason, George, that I can't figure out that they end up with Devontae Adams. We made it an hour and a half into the show. I'm proud of all of us for not doing Devontae Adams talk again this week for the second straight week, not knowing what's going to go on. The guy is irrelevant right now. He's not playing at all. Whatever. But if they were to make that move, then Lazard wouldn't play that much. But meanwhile, they still have Mike Williams also. Conklin does get a lot of playing time. The question is, will anybody take Lazard for 95 cents on the dollar? I don't think so.
Lazard's having that good season because Rodgers has Google eyes for him, and googly eyes in the red zone. He looks for him in the red zone. It's what he does. All right, so it's annoying. It's what was driving Garrett Wilson on was crazy until last week when they made a concerted effort to get Wilson more involved in the game plan. I wonder if Rodgers is a little peeved at Lazard. He was credited with 4 drops last week. I think some of those were not really just harder catch, but anyway, he dropped. He didn't have good hands in London. All right, so we'll see if Rodgers wants to go back to him again here. I think Lazard's a very good bye week guy. Am I trading for him? No, I'm not giving you something great for him. I'm not. I can't do that here. So I'm a fade here as far as that's concerned. But that being said, I think he's a useful receiver during the bye weeks.
Finally, let's get to one player that is not a trade and not a fade. It's the last name that we're going to hit on here, and that is the tight end of the Las Vegas Raiders, Brock Bowers. I mean, how many more valuable players at his position are there in all of fantasy football? 313 receiving yards, 28 catches, and a touchdown. I mean, this is like having LaDainian Tomlinson at running back or something, or Marshall Faulk. Like, Bowers is so good at tight end. It's great. I never thought that this would be the case, but there's no chance I'm trading this guy.
Agreed. Especially in the year of tight end. I guess there's a small chance, Craig, that you drafted Bowers as your second tight end. You could have Kittle number 1, right? I guess in that case, okay, fine. Kittle's playing well here, and you can move on from Bowers and get it, running back, whatever it might be. I can see that. But unless it's that circumstance, no, Bowers has been great. Does the quarterback change worry me a little bit? Sure, but it could be a good thing, too. They may look at him even more now, even more. I know you were proud of us not mentioning Devontae Adams. Well, he won't play this week again. So that helps Bowers as well.
It does. All right, we'll go through every fantasy game coming up next, every player you should be playing, and everyone that you should be sitting when we return on Fantasy Sports Today.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
I do think they come back, and I think they win this game, but they've got to do it decisively. I think they've got to get that confidence back because they went out there, and like I said earlier, Kentucky almost beat Georgia. Kentucky almost did beat Ole Miss, and I think what you're going to see in this conference, if you don't play well and you're a top 10 team in the SEC, you're going to get knocked out by one of those top 25 teams in the SEC if you're not ready to play.
Powered by SportsGrid.
Welcome back to Fantasy Sports Today here on SportsGrid. Time to break them all down. Each game one by one, who to start, who to sit, who the fantasy assets are, and then if you move the ETS from that word, who to not play. I'm not going to go into deep on there. You can figure it out. Cardinals-Packers, one of the highest totals on the board this week, George. Cardinals played great last week in the second half to come back and beat San Francisco. Packers really still have a really good offense. Unpredictable. They seem to be doing it one half at a time. Sort of strange. But I don't see how you could sit virtually anyone in this game that you've been starting.
Agreed. Now keep in mind, this is the one weather game we might have here. Definitely supposed to rain during this game. I don't know how hard. There's rain showers here, so I don't think it's going to be a monsoon or what we saw Sunday night where it delayed the game Pittsburgh-Dallas here, but that could have an effect here. But I expect points to be put up on the board here. The problem is what we talked about earlier with Green Bay. What receivers to start? That's the game you're playing here. I would not start Watson, by the way. I don't think he's playing anyway, but if he does, there's no way I'm starting him. I don't think he'll make it the game here. No Musgrave, so Tucker Kraft, the tight end. Big game last week. Can he do it again? Yeah, he might have to go for me as well here. Murray goes, Love goes, Connor goes, Harrison goes, and of course McBride at tight end goes.
Yep, I would agree. All hands on deck. All right, not the same in London. Got to make this decision early, Sunday morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern. Jaguars and Bears. This has sort of come true a little bit. My self-fulfilling prophecy on the Jaguars, George. They are playing much better. They're starting to show who they are. I actually like them in this game, by the way, against the Bears. I think the Jaguars' offense looks to me real good. I still don't think they're good, and I think they're going to struggle because that's what they do, and the coach is in trouble too. But I am going to play Trevor Lawrence this week. The Bears a little bit tougher for me. Moore came up big last week. I guess it's very selective, I would say, this week who I play. I don't think the projected points are going to be in the 50s or anything like that, but I sort of do still want to ride the Jaguars while they're playing well.
Trevor Lawrence's numbers in London suck. They're not very good. Fantasy-wise, he averages about 13 fantasy points a game, 4 touchdown points, 4 points per touchdown. I got a decision in my home league, Craig. I'll give it to you. Lawrence or Aaron Rodgers? Who are you starting?
Lawrence. Yeah,
I am too.
Oh, well, you know what? No, I do think the Jets are going to win on Monday night.
I do as well.
Yeah, you know what? It's close. I like Trevor Lawrence this week. I do like him, but it is close.
He can run.
And it's close, very close.
He can run, so that's why I'm going with him. But there's a lot of problems here. I mean, what do we do with Evan Ingram? All right, we've been waiting for him, and now he's limited again. Is he going to play? You make the fake. We need a tight end. We need a tight end.
No,
I've got this guy in so many leagues, killing me. But the guys have to start over from the Zach Ertzes of the world. I keep starting over guys like Ingram here. So you're starting Swift. I think could have a big game for Chicago. Definitely have him in my lineup. Cole Kmet, like him. Caleb playing better here. I don't think I want to start in a one quarterback league, but once again, no Mahomes, no Darnold this week, maybe no Stafford, maybe you don't have a choice. So a little more cautious in this game, but all the normal players go.
Same thing I think applies Colts and Titans. We got some better news on Pittman. I thought Pittman was out for sure. What did I miss earlier in the week? I thought that he was like a definite out. Now all of a sudden he was upgraded to questionable. I saw late in the week, so I guess he could potentially. Yeah, so he practiced, so he could even potentially play. So much for that. Tennessee, on the other hand, boy, I don't know what to make of their offense. Am I hoping Levis plays? Am I hoping Rudolph plays? I think for fantasy, you want Levis. For everything else, just to win, I guess if you take Tennessee, maybe you want Mason Rudolph. But Pollard will play for me this week. I'll play Sermon if he plays. If not, I think I'd play Goodson because I don't believe in Tennessee's defense. I hear a lot of positivity for Downs, Josh Downs too, but that's just not somebody I think I want to roll with this week.
I'm not so sure, Craig. I want to roll with any of the Indy receivers if Richardson's the quarterback. And he's questionable. I know it's weird to say, but if it's Flacco, I am much more on board. Flacco throws the ball down the field. He's much more accurate than Richardson is. I've said this a number of times on this show. Richardson had a terrible preseason. And if not for the fact that he played 5 games last year and he looked good, we would not have been talking about him fantasy-wise. He'd be nothing but, a super flex guy. Because you're starting 2 quarterbacks. I'm not. He looked bad. He looked bad when he played this year. So for fantasy, I want Flacco. All right, then I'll think about starting Pittman if Flacco plays. If Flacco's out, I'm not starting Pittman because I don't know if he can go the whole game anyway. So I'm going to worry about that. Downs is banged up too and questionable. So you have to watch that here. Pierce, maybe your number one wide receiver option if Flacco plays.
Yeah, I think regardless, I think you got to play Pierce. You're right. That's the name I forgot. Pierce had a really nice game last week. He seems to be their number one guy. All right, so another all-hands-on-deck game, obviously, here for the Commanders and the Baltimore Ravens. We'll wait to see who starts at running back for Washington. That's the only key decision that you'll have to make. But Daniels and Lamar on both sides, yes, yes. McLaurin, Zay Flowers, yes, yes. We've already been clear on Andrews. I guess Ertz. Yeah, I mean, I guess it just kind of depends on what you have. De'Ami Brown got involved in Washington's offense. I mean, you know me, George. I'm still very big on Washington. Every week, they're predicting them to lose. Maybe this is the week. I know they're 6.5-point underdogs, but I don't know. I think this is going to be a great game.
By the way, Craig was in on Washington earlier than anybody. I can affirm that. So good for you. As a Cowboy fan, not happy about this. Not happy about this at all. This team figured it out again. This team could be good for a long, long time. This might be your game of the week. They're Washington, Baltimore, 2 first-place teams there. This is pretty close, Craig, to another, what I would call, if you have a Commander or Raven on your team and you're not starting them, what's going on? Why? Are you that good at that position where you can sit this guy? I think a lot of points are coming in this game. Everyone goes.
All right, the Dallas Cowboys take on the Detroit Lions, and very similar to the game before, I think that this is one of those games too. How can you possibly sit any Detroit Lions, from Amon-Ra St. Brown to Jahmyr Gibbs, even Jared Goff coming off that perfect week that he had 2 weeks ago, and all of a sudden the Cowboys are right back in it with Dak and company. So look, their running back situation in Dallas isn't very good. But give me CeeDee Lamb, give me Dak Prescott. I could find enough here. This is one of those games, too, that has the potential to be in the 50s or 60s, George, just like Commanders Ravens. Agreed.
Same thing. If you have a Cowboy, I can't think of a Lion you would possibly have you're not starting, by the way. Maybe you have the 4th string wide receiver. Maybe that. Maybe I'm not starting him, but everybody else goes. All you normal guys go. Dak's going, CeeDee's going. I said I like Tolbert. I think Tolbert's going to be that guy who could give you survival fantasy numbers. Like I said, wide receiver 3. You're looking for that 14-point range somewhere around there. Dowdle goes for me as well. So you don't have that running back depth to not. Ferguson, of course. Like I said, I release Zeke in every league I'm in. So I'm assuming you're not going that far. And I said I can't think of a Lion I wouldn't start.
All right, Falcons and Panthers, a much easier game to dissect. Play your Falcons, sit your Panthers, George. The Panthers are, certainly not going to be the New England Patriots. I think that the Patriots have the worst offense in the NFL, but Carolina is close behind. I think it's a wrap. I don't think they're going to win many games the rest of the season.
No, it's a bad team. I listen, Superflex, I can see you playing Dalton. Hubbard probably goes for you. Once again, running back. Absolutely goes there. Are they the underdog of the day? Another inside joke. Deontay Johnson likely goes for me here. Yeah, I might want to check his health, by the way. So you might want to check that before you do it. Leggett, probably not. And that's as far as I'm going with Carolina. For Atlanta, I think the only guy we really discuss here, 2 guys. Well, one we mentioned earlier in the show, you're Ray McLeod or No McLeod. No McLeod, so he's not going here. And Tyler Algier. Are you that desperate at running back? We're going to have to go with him. I would hope not.
All right, and finally, Bengals-Giants. We made this one clear. Joe Burrow playing the best football of his career. Jamar Chase playing the best football of his career. You know what's interesting about this game? The running back situation for a later game is very murky. Is it Tracy? Is it Singletary? Is Zach Moss going to play? I mean, George, Chase Brown on Friday showed up on the injury report. I mean, those are like 3 or 4 startable running backs in fantasy. Have to wait on those.
I might prefer Tracy over Singletary. He looks really good, other than the fumble. Can't fumble that boy. Can't fumble that bull at all. That can't happen here. And Darius Slayton, no neighbors. I think Slayton's going to do it again here.
We'll be back with more next.
right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I am ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
I do think they come back, and I think they win this game, but they've got to do it decisively. I think they've got to get that confidence back because they went out there, and like I said earlier, Kentucky almost beat Georgia. Kentucky almost did beat Ole Miss, and I think what you're going to see in this conference, if you don't play well and you're a top 10 team in the SEC, you're going to get knocked out by one of those top 25 teams in the SEC if you're not ready to play.
Powered by SportsGrid.
He already has more than 1,000 yards. The last 3 running backs to win the Heisman, Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram, Reggie Bush, did not have more than 650 in their opening 5 games of the year. Ashton Genty on pace to strike the pose in December.
Statistics matter. Blow every record out of the water, and he will be a Heisman. Disgraceful performance by the head coach, not genius.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to Fantasy Sports Today. For those of you who are playing the daily fantasy slate, we're going to take a look at some of the pricing here in DFS. George, let's start off with quarterback, and let's start off with the pricing of Jordan Love of the Green Bay Packers. $6,600 this week, George. Buy or sell? Let's play it.
Now, I think Love's going to be great, right? We both think a lot of points coming in this game, right? I think there are plenty of points coming in this contest. It's one of the highest over-under totals on the board here. I like Love. He spreads the ball around well here. The only thing we're worried about is that Josh Jacobs steals our touchdowns. It's the only thing we're worried about here. All right. I am all over Love. I don't care what Dobbs is doing. I'm not even all that worried about Christian Watson if he plays or not or doesn't play. I don't think it matters. He's got too many other receivers that could be right there with him. Craig, I am a buy on Jordan Love.
Yeah, I'm a buy too. I think it's a great matchup for him, and the price is right, under $7,000 for a quarterback, so I'm a buy there as well. All right, Rachaad White later in the week downgraded to doubtful for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They take on the New Orleans Saints. Who knows what the Saints offense is going to look like, but I can tell you who's running the ball for Tampa Bay. Bucky Irving, $5,400 this week, George. I guess the question I would have for you is as follows. You know going into the week that this price is going to lead to a very heavy ownership this weekend against the New Orleans Saints. So if you do say buy, is it a cash game? It ain't for the $1 million prize. You're going to have to go the other way.
Very true. Very true. And you're right. Everybody in their mother is going to have Irving in their lineup. All right. So, yeah, we may have to fade just for that and be contrarian because everyone's going to have Irving. The problem is this. I think in the second half, if this game isn't close, I think Irving could get a lot of play. You know, he gets 20-plus touches here. Maybe he gets 2 touchdowns here. I think all this is possible for you. It might be tough to win if you don't have him. So that's going to be my issue here. Now, once again, if Rachaad White does play, that makes this a little less yet. But I don't think Rachaad White's playing. The fact that he was downgraded on Friday to doubtful is just not good. Not good. I don't think he plays here. So I guess overall I want to buy, but like I said, it's a very specific thing. If you want to be contrarian, which you're going to have to be to win these higher price contests, because everyone's going to have this guy, then you can't start him. You're going to have to go in a different direction here. But overall, he's a buy.
Yeah, overall he's a buy, cash game buy, head-to-head buy. But yeah, for the $1 million contest, probably a sell for me. So I got a little buy and a little sell, a little green and a little red here on the show. All right, Tennessee Titans, DeAndre Hopkins of the Titans. Will Levis seems to like throwing to Hopkins. I just wonder if you can really, insert him in the low end. Remember, once upon a time, Hopkins one of the highest priced wide receivers each week. Now he's $5,100 this week, George. I think he has to score to hit the salary for you. Is this a buy or sell?
Yeah, I know. Now Joe Pisapia and I talked about him on FST last Sunday, and Joe threw a little tidbit late there that he thinks Hopkins is going to get traded. Interesting. Interesting. I do wonder if that could be the best best thing for both parties as well. I have Hopkins in only one league of the 9 I play in here. I am starting him this week, but it's only because of buys. That's it. I have Jefferson in that league and Tyreek Hill. All right, so they're both on bye. I have no choice. I had an extra first-round picks if you're wondering how I did that. So I'll start him in this week, and I'm not excited about it. Craig, I'm not excited about starting him at all. He's a sell. What are you hoping for here? I mean, there's nothing going on. He may have to be traded to really prove his value again, assuming he is that player he used to be with the Houston Texans here. He's a sell. I don't want him.
Yeah, maybe back to Houston in a trade. I think maybe that's possible. Yeah, sell for me too on DeAndre Hopkins. I'll probably find somebody in the 4,000s that I'll take a shot here. Give me Tank Dell, by the way, over Hopkins going into the week. All right, tight end. Take your pick, flip your coin. Kyle Pitts. Really? Are we going to do this again with Kyle Pitts? 4,400 this week, George. I can't do this, man. Like I've seen enough. I don't know. Maybe it is him. Maybe it's not. Seems to be playing a little bit better. I guess that's fair to say.
Now he has been playing. Well, he had the one good game, right? He had the Thursday night game where he was big. I know the joke was as soon as I saw, I think he had the big 39-yard play on the first pass play, right, of the game for it. I'm like, it's going to be a good tight end week, right? Because Kyle Pitts is alive. All right, doesn't mean he's going to do it again here. That being said, it is a great matchup. But you are rolling the dice if you decide to start Pitts, right? Because we've seen this before, then he disappears. And Mooney's playing so well. London's playing so well. I'm sure Atlanta would like to get the run game going this week. I'm looking at the tight ends that are more expensive than him. I mean, Bauer's a $6 grand. McBride, I wouldn't pay up $5,700 for McBride. He's catching some balls, but not really. Hasn't had that big game yet. Laporta, same thing. Goddard, now that Brown and Smith are back, no. Ferguson at 5. I think I'd pay up to $600 because I do think it's going to be a lot of points in that game. I think Ferguson's going to finally get in the end zone here. Likely Fry. I mean, guys who are cheaper than him. Schultz is 41. I don't think I would go. As much as I do think this is an Andrews week, by the way. I don't think I'm going 3,900 with Andrews here. There's not much else there, though. I mean, if you need to save money, by the way, Taysom Hill's out this week. We didn't bring up that. So you're not going with him.
We hit that earlier.
If you do need to save money, Craig, I mean, he is the most decent tight end for the cheapest price.
Okay, I like McBride. I think I'd pay up there.
He hasn't done much.
I know, but I don't care. I mean, this guy's had one good week in 15. So I'll sell there. A question we get asked a lot, George, is, and it has nothing to do with DFS. That kind of closes out our DFS talk. If you have a kicker on a bye, do you cut them? If you have a defense on a bye, do you cut them? Do you ever hang on to a kicker? Is there a kicker worth hanging on to?
For the most part, the answer is no. But that being said, you might have a dead spot on your roster. And maybe you have a Butker or an Aubrey, and you don't want to release them. Like I said, I mentioned I have Zeke. If I had Zeke on my roster right now for some reason, and I didn't want to lose Aubrey, I didn't want to lose Butker, and you might have weird kicker rules where 50 yarders are worth 5 points and not 3, or 6 points, or whatever it might be. Hell, maybe 60 yarders are worth 7 points. I don't know. You could have weird rules like that. So generally, I release them, but like I said, if I have a dead spot, I hate this guy. I'm moving on from him anyway, and I don't want to lose Aubrey. Fine, then I'll do that. Same thing with a good defense. But is there any defense that's great that you can't afford to lose?
No, I just always look at matchups. Give me whoever's going against now, New England or Carolina. That's the way that I played it at the beginning of the season. Yeah. All right, we'll take a quick timeout. We'll come back and wrap things up next. You're watching Fantasy Sports Today on SportsGrid. Tomorrow morning, George Kurtz is off, but we got Matt Stryker and Joe Pisapia here on the show.
We're at a point in time coming off of a wild Saturday of college football. People are consistently peeking over at this board.
He actually would not be my number 1 overall pick, nor would I bet him to be the number 1 overall pick. I think you got that next wave of NFL players, which is so enticing, which when you see Jaden Daniels come into the NFL and you go, I can get something like that with a guy with just as good an arm.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're gonna go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's gonna help me get the job done. There is not gonna be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to Fantasy Sports today here on a SportsGrid. Craig Mish along with George Kurtz. Boy, isn't Deebo Samuel a fun player in fantasy, in reality? I mean, this guy was supposed to be out 6 weeks. He missed one, came back, and he's breaking records again. Played so well on Thursday night. First wide receiver in NFL history, George. 20 rushing touchdowns, 20 receiving touchdowns in his career. I mean, it took him a year or two, to get under his belt a little bit. But since then, what a phenomenal player he is. Worth every penny, too. For 49ers.
Absolutely. So that Swiss Army knife, right? Because he can do so many different things there. He makes a coach's job so much easier. All right. And defense, you always got to worry about where he is, what's he doing here. And he's good at both. That's really amazing. He's good at both here. So congratulations to Deebo for becoming that first player here. And I couldn't agree more, by the way. He's worth every penny the Niners pay him here. So he's a problem. He's a problem with defenses, and he'll continue to be that problem.
Yeah, he is. Now, a lot of people are playing in IDP leagues, these individual defensive position leagues. George, I don't know if you're playing in any this season. I am not. I did play in one, I want to say like 5-6 years ago, and I stopped. If you have Nick Bosa, how about this? He generated 14 pressures against the Seahawks on Thursday, tied for the most pressures by a pass rusher in a game over the last 4 seasons. 7 pressures on 18 blocking snaps in the first half. That's the most in the first half that we've seen in a long time. I like the IDP leagues, George, but, if I want to play in IDP leagues, you know what I'll do? I'll play fantasy baseball. That's what it is. It's work. It's drafting a million players. I don't know. That to me, it's more like fantasy baseball than anything else, because you're taking guys who you honestly at the back end of a roster don't know if they're going to perform.
Now, by the way, this could easily be my complaint segment, but we'll say that for something else. Gary Davenport and I, we used to be the ones back on series who were always trying to encourage people to play IDP leagues. All right. You said it. We don't ignore defense in baseball, right? You pitch, We don't ignore it in hockey, goalies. You don't ignore it in basketball. You have steals and blocks and stuff like that. Why do we ignore it in fantasy football? It makes no sense to me. We all hate kickers. Get rid of them. You're playing IDP. You're not even drafting a team defense. You can start small, Craig. Just draft a linebacker, a lineman, and a secondary. So it means it's one extra round because you're getting rid of, once again, you're getting rid of your kickers, you're getting rid of your defense. So it's one extra round you're going with. You start small. Everyone will have a stud. All right, then you can build from there. The IDP league that I play in, it's a dynasty league, with guys like Jeff Manson. Blewett used to be in it for us, but he left. We had to start. We do start more defensive players than offensive players. Yes, he blew it. So there, it's a lot of fun. It gives you more chances of where things can go your way here. We have, I think, 3 linemen start, 4 linebackers, and whatever, a whole bunch of secondary players. It's fun. It's just more fun here. Yes, I am a big proponent of IDP leagues. That being said, my home league, I've tried to get voted in every year, and every year, Not even close, because God forbid anybody should change things up. And Pat Mahomes still isn't in the Hall of Famer, by the way.
That was last week. It was last week's show. Come on, George. Can't do this. Inside reference. If you watched last week's show, you know what George is talking about. If not, you have no idea. It was a great segment, by the way. First time, second time, third time. Anyway, time to hit our final opinion of the day. It's time now for the SportsGrid 60.
Now, if you watch that the Thursday night football game, all right, San Fran, Seattle, which if you're watching the show, you probably did. You saw the snafu on the instant replay on the punt, where it was very obvious to all of us at home that, hey, it hit the defender's thumb. All right, it's a fumble, or a muff, whatever they want to call this thing. And yet the NFL somehow didn't have the same review that we had. Craig, how does this happen in a couple of $1 billion industry? I mean, it's already a joke that we have these old men, and by the way, they're my age, so whatever, it is what it is, that we have these old men with chains trying to get first downs. All right, I don't want to make fun of these guys. I'm making fun of myself, but we're using chains from.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I am ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
I do a sliding DiVincenzo to the one. Obviously, Terrence Jennings Jr., that is actually dynamic offensively and defensively. So we'll see how it works. I think it's a little bit of a work in progress. Do both teams win? Yes. I don't think at the end of the day, Minnesota could have afforded to keep Cat, Rudy, and Ant with that amount of money.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
I do think they come back, and I think they win this game, but they've got to do it decisively. I think they've got to get that confidence back, because they went out there, and like I said earlier, Kentucky almost beat Georgia. Kentucky almost did beat Ole Miss, and I think what you're going to see in this conference, if you don't play well and you're a top 10 team in the SEC, you're going to get knocked out by one of those top 25 teams in the SEC if you're not ready to play.
Powered by SportsGrid.
Let's go!
It's a Saturday we have looked forward to the entirety of the season. It's week 7 of the 2024 college football campaign. It's College Football Today live right here on this Saturday on SportsGrid. He is the mastermind of the college football pigskin. That is Joe Lisi. He is OK Dubs. That is Kevin Walsh. And I am Ben Stevens. 3 ranked versus ranked top 25 tilts on this second full Saturday of October. And many more other games across the marquee that are crucial for conference championship races and, of course, the hunt for a college football playoff. So I better not hear on this desk that we have not